It's the March show with Lori from Purposely Unplugged, and today we're talking about books, kids' books in particular. I'm not sure if it's a shot at me, but what the hell? Let's go with it. Lori, thanks for doing this month, and it's great to see you. What are we talking about when you brought this up to me, and I thought it was a great idea, but let's get into the kids' books this month.
All year, I'll be pulling books off my shelf. And so, yes, I think the kids' books are a good topic this month. If you're going on vacation, if you're flying, if you have time with grandbabies or nieces, nephews, there are all kinds of kids' books that are excellent resources. And so I'm going to do it quick because some of these are series. You're going to post all the kind of series titles.
Yep.
And I'm just going to give the nutshell versions. But we are going to start with John Jory, and this is The Good Egg. John Jory has a whole series of books. They are all about something that a child is facing. In The Good Egg, he's trying to do everything for everyone else. His own egg cracks a little bit. He has to take care of himself to be the best version of himself. All of these books are excellently illustrated. They're lovely books. And Dave, as we read them as adults, we can hear our own story. So they are not jabs at you, but as all adults, they kind of help us to stop and think about this from a kid's perspective. All of John Jory, excellent series.
Okay. They did the one thing too. I always enjoyed reading to my kids when they were younger. I think there's that bond that's created as well, right?
Because you can stop and say, oh, I never thought about that. You can stop and say, wow, sometimes I think that too. Those are lovely moments to uncover.
Yeah. Especially with your kids, for sure.
Yeah. The second series is What to Do When series. So this is by Don Huebner. But these are things like what to do when I worry, what to do when I grumble, what to do when my brain gets stuck. So these are actually books where the child can read them with you, but there's activities to help them. So these are lovely books, but you're going to have to sit down and really work through it with your child or with your grandchild together. Fabulous books.
It's such a tool that can help develop a strong mental approach to life, isn't it?
Yeah, because of the activities built in these books. These are workbooks. So they are fabulous workbooks.
But they're workbooks, but it's also a story for the kids to enjoy, correct?
Yes, it is. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, in one of them, when I worry too much, the worry monster comes up. And you create the way that the worry monster helps you and how you ground. So they are very good books. They are structural, excellent books.
Excellent.
Okay. Now, breathing techniques. So this is really about mindful breathing. So Nick Ortner and Alicia Taylor, excellent breathing book. So really, you actually practice breathing, the diaphragmatic breathing. Wonderful book for kids. And it kind of goes along with the Color Monster. Color Monster is about our emotions and how we feel at different times. So when you combine the emotional work with the breathing work, that's a really good place to start, particularly with children that are 5, 6, 7 years old.
You work with a lot of kids. I know that. And is this something that you see as a nice way for parents to introduce some of these subjects to the kids in a proper form?
Absolutely. And in a neutral form, because it's not my message as a parenting. It's not because I say so. It's because we're finding it together in the pages of a book.
That's true. It's a really good point.
Very different way. Yeah. One of my favorites. This was at a garage sale. So whoever I bought this from a garage sale, thank you. Fabulous book. Nancy. So this is by Sybil Young. Nancy is overthinking. Nancy tries to organize her thoughts by color and then by shape and all by jumble. But then when Nancy takes a breath, all of her thoughts come together. So this is excellent for someone whose brain is busy and for a child whose thoughts just sometimes get jumbled. Nancy is a fabulous way to look at it.
The neurodevelopment with a book with a child. Can you talk to that for a minute? Because I think it's so much different than a video or a phone setting, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So with the book, it's the illustration, it's the color, it's the grounding, it's the tactile, and it is the time where you're sitting with them. It's your linguistics. It's the way you breathe. It's the way you take time. It's the way you create time. There's so many things wrapped around in just sitting and reading a book.
The one word I took from that I want you to expand on a little bit more is grounding. I think that's critical.
Mm-hmm.
It's,
So go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's that moment when everything is calm within your life, you and your child or whoever you're reading the story to. It's that calm moment, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. And I think we've talked about this over and over. We're living our lives at the speed of light. We are
Yep.
overinformed. We have cell phones. We have TikTok. We have TV episodes that have a solution in 30 minutes. But that's not the reality. So the
No,
world that our kids are living in the school system and in academics and within their friend structure and bullying, the world that they're living in is very different than the world we experienced. So
yep,
if a book can help you slow and really ask those questions and hear the answers, then I think that's a valuable, valuable piece of time spent.
that's cool. Any other books?
Oh, of course.
Oh, of
Uh,
course. Fire away.
this is about loss, the invisible string. So every child is going to experience loss of an animal, a grandparent, a neighbor, a child from the classroom moving and going somewhere else. Children all experience loss, and we know that children tend to internalize loss. So it's my fault that this happened. If I had fed the dog more, it wouldn't have died. Those kinds of thinking.
Yeah,
And then missing that person, that object, that thing in their life. So invisible string lets us know, or gives the option to let a child know, that even when someone is gone, no matter where they are, we have these invisible connections through memories, through thoughts, and that those are really important.
that's
It's
cool.
and it's not faith based, meaning it isn't a specific faith based book, but definitely around loss, it's a good place to start.
Cool.
Yeah,
I like that.
yeah. My absolute favorite, Clovis Keeps His Cool. This is the
We've
proverbial
talked about this.
bull in a china shop. I know. So this is by Caitlin Arsenal. So Clovis used to be on a football team, and some of his old football buddies come and tease him. So this is about bullying from the past and how it exists today. And Clovis is now managing his grandma's tea shop. And so there is an infraction in the tea shop when Clovis loses his temper.
Oh,
So many things are built into this book. It is one of my favorites, and it is the proverbial bull in a china shop, but it's targeting
literally.
bullying.
Yeah. That's an important subject in today's society, a very big subject in all areas of life, it seems right now.
Absolutely. So it's funny, it's silly, the graphics are wonderful, but it really takes you to that emotional moment where he had to learn how to calm.
Yeah.
And then when he could calm, what this meant for those people that were bullies in his life.
The other part too that I think we should just spend a second on here is the one thing I've always enjoyed about books is it allows your imagination to run free. And I think that's something that we're kind of losing a little bit because, as an adult, I still love to read. I'll read whatever I can get my hands on. But two things I think I'm always learning, which I think is important, and your imagination can run free.
Absolutely. And several of the illustrators from those books are very different illustrators. So it's not only the creativity piece, but it's seeing on paper to
Right.
then be able to reproduce in our own brains in a creative way.
Perfect.
Yeah. And that leads us to the creative book. So perfect segue, the CBT activity book. So this
Okay.
book is full of activity pages. Now this is older. This would be 10, 12, 13. This is slightly older because this is looking at, if I had a magic wand, what would I change in my life?
Okay.
This is the worry boat page. So if my worries were on little rowboats and I could push them away, what worries would I put on those little rowboats?
But maybe, and let's just, if you don't mind, CBT, explain what that is for the folks.
Good. Cognitive behavior therapy. How we
Yep.
think about something structures the way we automatically think about that. Sometimes it's in a negative way. How can we shift that? If we
Right.
shift how we're thinking about something, we can shift the outcomes. We can shift our body response, and we can shift what meaning this holds in that person's life.
probably, I'm going to take a shot at this, would be good for reducing anxiety.
Oh, anxiety, um, bullying is covered in here. Family structures is covered in here. Again, loss, losing someone. This book is fabulous. This was one of the first books I started recommending, and every parent of a young person that comes in contact with me, I do some of these pages with the kids. So it's
Okay,
good for them to have their own copy at home, but I do many of these pages with youngsters all the time.
perfect. I love that. It's
Yeah, it is
super.
one of my favorites. CBT activity book. Okay, but now let's switch over to adult because we are best when we are grounded and we are best when we are the best versions of ourselves. And so that's important too. And a year ago, one of my best friends bought me this book. And I kind of looked at it and I thought about it and I avoided it for a while. But once I got into this book, I absolutely learned to adore it. And I've
Okay.
recommended it now to many clients.
What
So,
held you back? I'm curious. What held you back from
because I
reading?
don't like journaling. I've never been a journaler.
Oh, it's a
If
journaling. Okay.
you looked for my teenage journals, you wouldn't find them because I didn't do them. I was not a journaler ever in my life.
But now you are, apparently.
It's changed how I think about it, yes. So when you Google this book, the title is going to be a little bit different. You know, it is about grounding and it is about the new mindset. The front of this book looks like this. The author is Case Kenny, and I know you can't read through the screen, but I'll show you that it was literally a short little journaling book.
Oh, cool.
I know. And it got to be something where every morning I'd have tea and I was looking forward to tomorrow.
Ah, yeah. We'll see what you can put in there, eh?
And so this was
So
new
cool.
for me. And as I pulled it off the shelf last night, I flipped through a couple of the pages and some of the things that I highlighted last year. I can now see the difference where I am with that
Yeah.
and how that is transformed for me. So I have learned that this has become one of my favorites, and I recommend it to many clients and many adults.
I know that when I prepare when I'm doing preparing for big runs or races, I do journaling to see where my food's going, and it's surprising the mental outlook that I come across on certain days, the way I feel, how I act. You know, you're putting that down because you're trying to figure out the perfect formula, and I think that's I never looked at it from your perspective. I always looked at it from, oh, this is going to help me achieve this point where I need to get to. But it's so critical because then all of a sudden you're seeing these habits that you're forming, or maybe you're how you're not looking at things and you should be, right? It's
Mhm.
a different approach. I'm a big component. I agree. I probably should do it more on an individual daily basis. I usually do it around something specific, but yeah, that's a great point because it does offer that opportunity to reflect and sort of move forward, doesn't it?
Mhm.
That's
Absolutely.
cool.
Absolutely. So we'll continue through the year pulling different books from the shelf. The way I look at this is if there's something that's in one of these books that helps someone, fabulous. If you pass a book on to someone, fabulous. Whatever my bookshelf will offer you, that's each month what we will look at.
It's amazing how kids' books have changed dramatically in the last, boy, 50 years. Like I think what Jack and Jill, like ours were just little reader books. And
Yeah.
then I think of my daughter reading Munch, Paper Bag
Yeah.
Princess, and things like that, right? And it's just this evolution of how this, and that was controversial at the time,
I know.
right? Like when you start looking back, you're like, are you kidding me? Like, no, that was just equality. But it's interesting to see how it's all changed. And if you're starting out with a family today, it's important that you have this library, really, because it's going to benefit you and your kids down the road.
Yes.
I
Or
think
that
we've
you have access to the library. So,
right.
no pun intended, yes, our community libraries are a good resource. And I always think that's a good thing to do. And some of these books you can actually just watch through the computer.
Yep.
So, when I work virtually with children, sometimes we just do the audiobook and through the screen, we're both watching it. So, that's something that 20, 30 years ago, we wouldn't have dreamed we would have had the ability to do.
No, exactly. It's a different mindset altogether. I think too, though, there's something about, I don't know if you're like me, obviously you are, look behind you. I need to feel a book,
Yes.
that texture. And, you
Yeah.
know, I do read some Kindle books, but at the same time, I really, if you go to the basement, there's just all these books me and my daughter have laying around, my son. And it's just crazy because I think that kind of builds personality too. If you're able to be objective as you get older and look at these different scenarios and read different books, it opens your eyes to different things that you didn't think about. And even when you're a kid, with what you're doing with those books, that's what it's doing. It's opening the eyes and seeing there's options and understanding the world as it exists today.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Pretty cool show when we need to do one down the road where I get to bring my books to you and say, hey, read this book. Okay, this is how Van Halen broke up. No, never mind.
Give me some notice. I need time to read stuff like that.
I mean, I'm just using that's a bad example, but I mean, I would read that. But I mean, it's kind of interesting that books do that to us. I think that, again, that escape from reality, and in this day and age, we need that more than ever, and just an opportunity to educate yourself on other things that maybe you wouldn't explore.
Right. And a different way to talk about it. And for us as adults, just a different way to see it from their perspective. Yes. And to listen and to ask questions. Not reading a book just to get through the pages, but reading the book to go, I wonder, have you ever felt that?
Yeah. That's a really good point.
That's the way to read it with them.
And March break, it's here. So get out there, get those books, folks, read them. And we're going to leave, just so people know, at the end of this podcast, there's about a 30-second spread where these the names of the authors that you sent to me is up, so they can take that and copy it and do what they want with it. But great show today, Lori. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I love sharing. Thank you.